to somewhere that will lift you up.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't care what kind of shape you are in when you walk in these doors. By the time you walk out again, something's going to have awakened. You're going to wake up. You're going to wake up to that divine being that you are. You're going to wake up to this new idea that says life is good. Everything's going to work out. Everything is for me. Nothing can be against me. I can't lose anything. I've already got it all. Awaken. Isn't that what springtime is about? Can't you just hear the trees? Can't you feel the ground? Usually it starts in about February, but this time it started, I think, in January. And there was this calling that said, I would say wake up, but I'm told that's grammatically incorrect. Awaken. It whispers to wake up, that something's happening. The sun is coming back. The days are getting longer. The earth is warming up. The sap is rising. It's being called from deep within, the essence of whatever those beings are. The native people call them the standing people. I don't know what they call the seeds. But those beings that are slumbering in the earth in the cold, there's something that calls to them to awaken, to rise up, to be more than they thought that they were. That life isn't about darkness and it's not about coldness. Maybe we have those ups and downs in our lives, but that is not our nature. Our nature is to awaken. Our nature is to rise up. Our nature is to allow that which we are to come forth into our life. And when we do that, everything changes. I love this picture. Thank you, Barbara Lovejoy, wherever you are, for finding it for me. I saw it and I said, that's it. Because don't you think that that little baby chick is okay in the egg for the most part? Don't you think that while it's in there and it's got enough food, it's being kept by its mom, and it's being turned every so often, and it's got enough oxygen, and it's got enough room, that it really is fine staying in the egg? And then something happens. It starts to awaken. It starts to get cramped in that egg. You know, by the time the baby chick comes out of the egg, you wonder how in the world that chick fit in the egg to begin with. It starts to cramp. It starts to chafe. It doesn't like the confines of life as it knows it. And I know that when that happens to us, too often we go, oh, things are going wrong. And I go, no, things are going great. Things are going great because we are outgrowing life as we knew it so that we can awaken to a greater reality. And then that chick just can't stand it. And so it starts to squirm and move. And if you've ever watched eggs hatch, it's fascinating. And all of a sudden it starts pecking and starts pecking and starts pecking until it busts out of what was used to be safety into what is now freedom. And I love this picture because instead of having a baby chicken come out, there is a light that comes forth. And I think that the light that is within us that shines forth when we break out of those confines of safety into freedom of being who we truly are enlightens our world. This is a celebration of Easter. It's a celebration of the story of Jesus, the resurrection of that Christ consciousness, saying that even death cannot confine us. And of course we know that even death can't confine us. Whenever we pass out of this earth plane, all we're doing is laying down a body, but that life that we are continues to live. And so in this story about Jesus rising on the third day, lifting up, letting that light come out, and in so doing, changing the consciousness of everyone on planet Earth, there is a story about each of us. Because in Science of Mind, what we learn is that this idea of Jesus as the Christ is not a story about someone who lived a couple of thousand years ago. It's the story of all of us. That we all have that Christ consciousness within us. You are Anna the Christ. You are Barbara the Christ, Maggie the Christ, Charlie the Christ, John the Christ, Olympia the Christ. We are all the Christ. Because there is that within us that is divine. I love some of the quotes that Jesus said, some of the things that he said that don't often get quoted. Like when he looked around and said, "These things and greater you shall do also." What happened to that? What happened to that? These things and greater. So you're supposed to heal the sick and raise the dead and have the lame walk. You're supposed to be able to reach out and grab money when you need it. You know, when the disciples came to Jesus and said, "Oh my God, the Romans want tax money." And Jesus said, "Go find a fish. Open up the fish's mouth and there'll be a gold coin and you can pay your taxes." And all we remember about that is, "Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar." That's what we take out of the story instead of the idea that says we can go out fishing for ideas, because the whole Bible is very metaphysical. The fish is the idea in the water, which is the subconscious. So go fishing in your subconscious for a new idea, for a new thought, and you will find something of great value, symbolized by a golden coin. And you can take that value and you can have all of your bills be paid. Go fishing inside of your own subconscious, your own subjective, and bring forth a new idea, bring forth a new thought, and see the value in that, and that will manifest as more than enough in your world. These things that this man did were amazing. But you know, so many people have made up so many stories about him. We've turned Jesus into anything that we want him to be. Jesus wants you to buy this car. Jesus wants you to marry this person. Jesus wants this political party to be right. Oh no, Jesus wants this political party to be right. We've turned this into so many things. And there's a big debate, because now we're not even sure what in the world Jesus was. There are 3 arguments that Jesus was black. Because he called everyone brother. Because he liked gospel. And he had 12 homies. But you know, there are 3 other arguments that Jesus was Jewish. Because he went into his father's business. He lived at home until he was 30. He was sure his mother was a virgin, and his mother was sure he was God. And then there are 3 good reasons that Jesus was Italian, because he talked with his hands. He had wine with all of his meals, and he used a lot of olive oil. What about the idea that Jesus was from California? He never cut his hair. He always walked around in sandals, and he started a new religion. But the most compelling evidence of all was that Jesus was a woman. Yeah. He fed a crowd at a moment's notice when there was no food. He kept trying to get a message across to a bunch of men who just didn't get it. And here's the kicker. Even after he was dead, he had to get up because there was still work to do. Ways to look at this idea of Jesus. There's the historical facts that we have about Jesus that to me are kind of confusing. I was watching on the news last night. They were doing the Mass in Bethlehem, of where Jesus was supposedly born. But in Luke it says that Jesus' family was in Nazareth and they had to go to Bethlehem. And in Matthew, they said that the family was already living in Bethlehem, but why did they call him Jesus of Nazareth? Because they always called them Jesus of, this is where you were born. And so some of the historical data is confusing. They called him the Prince of Peace. And yet in Matthew, he says, think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. So when you look at the historical data, which granted was a long time ago and didn't get written down for hundreds of years, it can be a little confusing. And then you've got the whole mythological story of Jesus. That are the things that Jesus has been said to have supported. Like the idea that babies that aren't baptized are going to go to hell. Or the idea of hell, period. Heaven being somewhere far away, when Jesus kept saying over and over and over again, the kingdom of heaven is within you. 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 And so we say, well, if you don't believe in Jesus, you're not going to go to heaven. He says the kingdom of heaven is within you. And then all of the ideas about what Jesus meant. That this is what it meant. That is what it meant. You know, if you're going to study the man, just study what he said. Don't study what somebody said he said. And certainly don't listen to what somebody said. He said, he said, he said, he said, and that's what he meant. That supports my position. He said some really cool things. He said, the Father and I are one. You know, when the Jewish teachings were going on, when Jesus was born, and he came into this idea of a relationship with Spirit, the God of the Jewish tradition was far away, was angry, was very judgmental, and punitive. And Jesus came in and said, no, the Father and I are one. For that matter, he changed the word that he used to discuss the idea of God. He called him Abba. He called him Papa. That's what Noah and Aiden called John's Papa. They say it very lovingly, Papa. He said, go in the closet, shut the door, shut your mouth, and be quiet, and consider these ideas that the kingdom of heaven is already within you. That you and the Father are one. What in the world could he have meant by that? I and the Father are one. The kingdom of heaven is within me. There is a light that is who we are. He said, I am the light of the world. He said, you are the light of the world. He said, don't put a bushel on your light. Let your light shine. That you don't put a light up on a hill and put a bushel on it. You don't rise up in your life and then pull back. You shine on. You enlighten the world. And I love that song, One Power. Call it Buddha. Call it Jesus. Call it whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing. I love this idea that there are beings on this planet that are so clear about who they are that a light pours forth from them that will touch the lives of other people. Have you ever been around someone like that? People flock to go and see teachers like that. I know that when Sai Baba was still on this plane, people would flock to see him because somehow seeing him, somehow being around that energy changes them. And I know that when you come into this room, being in this energy changes you. It's something that we all hold. It awakens us. They call it a quickening. And when that light comes forth, then we step into the stage of enlightenment. It is not the man Jesus that changed the world. It is the Christ consciousness. And you know, there's a big debate. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I love it. There's a big debate about when Jesus became the Christ. Was he born as that Christ? Little baby Jesus in the manger with the light coming out. Was he born? Did he come in as an enlightened being? Maybe he did. Or was it when John the Baptist baptized him and the heavens opened and the dove came down and the voice said, this is my son in whom I am well pleased. Now what's the difference, you may say? Well, if he came in as the baby and the enlightened one, then he came in that way. But if something happened to him where he turned from a regular guy into that state of enlightened consciousness, that Christ consciousness, then what that says for me is that that is what we are all supposed to do. He said these things and greater. Maybe we're supposed to do it faster. Maybe we're not supposed to wait till we're 30 to achieve the Christ consciousness, to open up to that enlightened state, to let the light out, to rise up, to awaken. These things and greater. It's for every one of us. Whatever Jesus is, he's not different. He's not the great exception. He's the great example. So if we're going to follow these teachings that say, I and the Father are one, the kingdom of heaven is within me, then we need to do it from a point of view that says, this is what I am. This is who I am. This is not somebody far away. This is the essence of my being. That's one thing I love so much about this teaching. It's the best self-help program around. Because it says to you that who you are is God in form as you. You can't get away from it. You can play small if you want. But as Marianne Williamson said, playing small never helped anybody. It does not serve the world for you to play small. What we're supposed to do is awaken. Sai Baba said there are 3 kinds of people. And any 2 of the 3 I can help. He says if someone comes to me and they're awake, great. They're awake. They've already awakened. And if someone comes to me and they're asleep, fine. I can wake them up. I can say, wake up. I can say, awaken. And they'll wake up. But if somebody comes to me and they are pretending that they are asleep, I can't do anything. I can't do anything. And so I guess the question for us today is, are we awake? Or are we asleep? Or are we pretending to be asleep? And you know what that's like to pretend to be asleep. You go, oh, I know what I should be doing, but I'm not going to do it. It's just too much for me. I just don't want to work that hard. I'd like to be enlightened. I'd like to be able to pull the money out of the fish's mouth. I'd like to be able to say, rise, pick up your bed and walk. I'd like to be able to change the world, but I don't want to work that hard. So I'm going to cop out. I'm going to go into that fog. I'm going to pretend that I'm asleep. And then there are the other ones who say, all I want to do is get it. I want to get it. I want to get it. I want to get it. You come to me and say, Barbara, whatever it is you tell me to do, I will do. Because I want to get it. I want my body to be healthy. I want to have more than enough. I want to be able to love without all of this old baggage. I want to be who I have come here to be. I don't really know how to do it, but I'm willing to do anything. I can wake you up. But if it's this thing of, oh no, you know, maybe I could just let this life slide. Maybe I could just nap it out. No. I can't do anything. I can't do anything. I can talk to you till I'm blue in the face. I can continue on for years and it won't go anywhere. But if you decide that you are ready, that you are at least willing to wake up, if you decide that there's half a chance that you could be the Christ and that you are willing to go for it, no matter what, that you are willing to let go of all of the old baggage that said you were nothing but a chicken. And you're willing to peck. You're willing, like those trees, to bring that sap up, even if they're at risk of frost. You're willing to burst out and bloom. You're willing to be who you've come here to be. You're willing to be that God being, that powerful being, that being of light and love, that for me is so obvious that you are. And yet sometimes when you look in the mirror, you don't see it. If you're willing to be that, then when you sit in this room, something awakens. Something quickens. Something catches fire. Something lights up. And then when you hear these words, these oh so profound words, they touch you in a different place. The kingdom of heaven is within you. You and the Father are one. You and the Mother are one. You and the It with a capital I are one. And then there's this whole debate about the crucifixion. Abraham says Jesus was having a bad day. don't know. You know, a number of years ago, there were some finds in Egypt and along the Dead Sea. And they got some of the original parchment papers of the New Testament out. And they have some of the most amazing differences in translation. One of which I particularly like, which is in the Lord's Prayer. It did not say, lead us not into temptation. Like there's some big, all-powerful, all-knowing deity that's just out to trick us and to lead us into temptation and then to sit back and watch and see what happens. And if we fall, we have eternal damnation. That's crazy. What it said is, do not let us enter into temptation. Hey, whatever you are, incredible power, one light, one love, watch my back. If I start going down the wrong track, give me a little nudge. It says, hey, watch it, you're about to go into temptation. You're about to lose it. Isn't that a better deity? For me it is. And then one of the most amazing things that I've ever heard in my life is when the last statements on the cross were retranslated from my God, why hast thou forsaken me? As if whatever God is could ever forsake us, since God is us. To my God, for this was I spared. This is my destiny. Whoa, maybe he knew what he was doing. Maybe somebody that clear and that powerful and that enlightened, as he rode into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, as the crowd was cheering, knew that in a couple of days everything would be different. And maybe he went in there anyway with head held high, saying, I'm about to bring a transformation onto planet Earth. I'm about to usher in the Piscean Age. I'm about to change everything because I am willing to give it all up to be who I have come here to be. The seed's got to let go to become the plant. You can count the seeds in an apple, but never the apples in the seed. But the seed's got to let it go to become the tree. The chicken's got to let it go to become a living, breathing being. It's got to let go of security and safety to embrace freedom and power. We can't play small and expect to have a big life. And what I believe happened was that whatever Jesus was, whoever he was he Buddha reincarnated, or did Jesus reincarnate as Buddha? I don't have my timeline here at all. Whoever he was, the divine in form as him, there was that willingness to stand on what he knew, to reach out and grab what he needed, to say, can you imagine? Pick up your bed and walk. Now I'm going to spit on some dirt and you will see. Now you are healed. Cast out the demons of epilepsy, because that's all it was. The demons were only epilepsy. Cast that illness out, and to move forward all the way to the end of his life, to be who he had come here to be, to bring forth that energy of light and love and power as that Christ consciousness. Why? So that we could awaken, so that there is that within us that can rise up, can be more than we thought that we were. And even when it looks like we're going down the path where we have lost everything, we are willing to stand on this idea that even at the end of our life, there is more to us than we ever dreamed possible. That's the story of Easter. That's the story of resurrection. That's the story of awakening. It's for each and every one of us to say there is a light within you. There is a love within you. There is a power within you that is bigger than any circumstance. I don't care what that circumstance is. Now, I would recommend we don't go get ourselves nailed up on a cross. But if you look at something in your life that seems like it's going to take everything away from you, let it go. Just let it go. And trust that who you are is bigger than any circumstance. That what you are is greater than any condition. There is that within you that is already awake. There is that within you that already knows. Don't hold back. Don't pretend like it's not there. Don't pretend like you're asleep. Go ahead and be awake. Go ahead and be the God being that you were always, always, always meant to be. Awaken. And so it is.